Chapter 1, The Return. The moment Elias stepped off the bus, the ocean greeted him with a cold breath of salt and wind. The same scent he had grown up with, both comforting and terrifying in its familiarity. He tightened his grip on the strap of his sketchbook bag and looked down the small coastal road. Nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different, like someone had rearranged the town while keeping all the pieces the same. 10 years. 10 years since he'd sworn never to come back. Elias walked toward the pier, letting the waves fill the silence around him. The afternoon sun painted the water in silver and gold, and for a moment, he felt almost peaceful. Then he heard a voice behind him. Elias? It was a voice he knew instantly, too familiar, too warm, too full of the past he had tried to outrun. His chest tightened before he even turned around. Adrian Hale stood a few steps away, camera hanging from his neck, wind tossing his dark hair like it used to when they were teenagers. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Adrian's eyes softened with something between surprise and disbelief. You came back. Elias swallowed, forcing his voice to stay steady. Yeah, just for a while. The wind carried the pause between them. It felt like a decade's worth of unsaid words pressed into a single fragile moment. Adrian took a small step closer. I didn't think I'd ever see you here again. Elias managed a faint, careful smile. I didn't think I would either. They stood facing each other. Two people who once knew everything about one another, now strangers with memories. And beneath all of it, a spark Elias wished he didn't still feel. Chapter 2, Old Rooms, Old Ghosts. The guest room smelled like lavender and dust. Elias set his bags down at the edge of the small bed and let himself fall backward onto the mattress. The ceiling hadn't changed, still painted a soft cream color, still holding the faint cracks he used to count on sleepless nights. He closed his eyes. He had only been back in town for 3 hours, and already he felt everything he'd tried to bury clawing its way up again. Adrian's voice, Adrian's face, Adrian's eyes. Elias exhaled slowly, pressing the heel of his palms against his temples. He wasn't here to dig up the past. He was here to help his aunt recover from surgery, stay for a few weeks, and then leave, quietly, cleanly, and without letting anyone drag him back into who he used to be. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Elias? His aunt's gentle voice asked. Dinner is ready. I made your favorite soup. He sat up, forcing a tired smile. Coming. The kitchen was warm, bright, and safe. His aunt moved slowly but gracefully, adjusting bowls, lighting a tiny candle in the middle of the table. She had always liked small comforts. You look pale, she said, peering at him over her glasses. Did something happen on your walk? Elias hesitated, fingers tightening around his spoon. I ran into someone. Oh? She stopped moving. Adrian? He froze. Is it that obvious? To everyone but you, dear. She sat beside him. He asked about you many times over the years. Elias looked down at the steaming bowl. His chest ached in a way he didn't want to name. That doesn't matter now. His aunt hummed, the kind of non-answer that said she disagreed but wouldn't push. For what it's worth, people change. Time can grow us or break us. Sometimes both. Elias didn't reply. Later that night, unable to sleep, he slipped outside. The cool air wrapped around him as he walked toward the shore. Moonlight spilled over the waves, turning the ocean into a shifting field of silver. Elias sat on a flat rock and opened his sketchbook, letting his hand move without thinking. Lines becoming shapes, shapes becoming the familiar curve of a jaw, the slope of a nose, the soft mess of windblown hair. Adrian's face. Of course, it always became Adrian. Elias shut the sketchbook with a frustrated breath. Just as footsteps approached behind him. He didn't need to turn around. He knew that sound. He knew that presence. Adrian spoke first, voice low, cautious. I hoped I'd find you here. Elias's heartbeat stumbled. What do you want, Adrian? A long silence. Then, to talk, if you'll let me. Elias finally turned his head. Adrian's face was half lit by the moon, tired, unsure, softer than he remembered. I don't know if talking will fix anything, Elias said. Adrian stepped closer, the waves brushing lightly against the rocks. Maybe not, but not talking, that definitely won't. Elias looked back at the ocean, jaw tight. Why now? He whispered. Adrian's voice caught, barely audible. Because I never stopped wishing I could make things right. The wind stilled, the world stilled, and Elias felt something inside him tremble, fragile and dangerous. Chapter 3, Tension Rising. The waves crashed softly against the rocks, hiding the silence stretching between them. Elias kept his eyes on the water, but he could feel Adrian watching him, careful, hesitant, as if one wrong word might make Elias disappear again. Elias, Adrian said quietly, you don't have to run this time. A bitter laugh escaped before Elias could stop it. I'm not running. You always run when you're hurt. And you always pretend you didn't cause it. The words came out sharper than he intended. Adrian flinched. Elias sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. I didn't come here for this. I don't want to fight. I'm not trying to fight, Adrian said, stepping closer. I'm trying to understand. Elias turned, meeting his eyes, those storm-colored eyes that used to feel like home. Understand what? Why I left. Why I didn't look back. His voice cracked. You already know, Adrian. Adrian swallowed, guilt darkening his expression. I know I hurt you. I know I was a coward. I thought I had more time to figure myself out. You didn't, Elias whispered. And I didn't either. Wind tugged at their clothes, pulling at the tension between them like invisible strings. Adrian sat on the rock beside him, leaving just enough space for the distance between them to hurt. You didn't even say goodbye, Elias said again, softer now. You just vanished from my life. Adrian's voice broke. I was scared, of losing you, of being seen, of wanting you more than I knew how to handle. Elias closed his eyes. You were everything to me, Adrian. And then you were gone. I never stopped thinking about you. Don't say that. Elias's jaw tightened. It makes it harder. Adrian exhaled shakily. I'm not saying it to make things harder. I'm saying it because it's true. Silence again, but this time, it felt different, charged, electric. Elias opened his sketchbook without thinking. Adrian leaned slightly, trying to see. You still draw by the ocean, Adrian murmured. It's the only place I can breathe. Can I look? Elias hesitated, then handed it over. Adrian's thumb brushed his, just a light touch, but enough to send heat rushing under Elias's skin. The moonlight illuminated the page. Adrian froze when he saw the sketch. Elias's stomach twisted. It doesn't matter. It does to me. Adrian's voice was softer than the tide. Elias, you still draw me the way you used to. Elias snatched the sketchbook back, clutching it to his chest. I draw memories. That's all. Adrian stepped closer, close enough for Elias to feel the warmth of his breath. I'm not a memory. I'm right here. Don't, Elias whispered. Don't what? Don't stand so close. Don't look at me like that. Don't make it feel like we're 17 again. Adrian swallowed hard. What if I want to? Elias's breath hitched. The wind lifted around them, cold and sharp, but Elias felt warm, dangerously, unbearably warm. Adrian, he whispered, warning and longing tangled together. Adrian's voice dropped, almost a confession. I want to fix what I broke. Even if it takes time. Even if you don't trust me yet. Elias shook his head, eyes burning. You can't fix the past. No, Adrian said, stepping even closer, but maybe we can fix what's left of us. Elias finally looked up. Their faces were inches apart. The ocean roared behind them. The air throbbed with everything they weren't ready to say. Elias whispered, this is a bad idea. Adrian whispered back, tell me to leave, and I will. Elias's lips parted, but no words came. And that silence said everything. Chapter 4, Confessions and Cracks. The electricity of the moment hung between them, fragile as a single thread. Elias felt every heartbeat echoing in his ribs, loud, uncertain, too close to breaking. Adrian waited, breath caught, body still, like one wrong movement might send Elias slipping away again. Elias stepped back first, not far, just enough for the world to breathe again. I can't do this, he whispered. Adrian's shoulders fell, the softness in his eyes dimming. I get it. No, you don't. Elias crossed his arms, as though he could physically hold the past inside his chest. You think this is about forgiveness? Or about me still caring? Isn't it? Adrian asked quietly. Elias shook his head. It's about fear. Adrian's gaze flickered. Fear of me? Fear of us. The waves crashed louder against the rocks, filling the space where Adrian didn't reply. He just sat down on the sand, elbows resting on his knees as he stared out at the water. Sit with me? He asked. Elias hesitated. Then, with a sigh, he lowered himself onto the sand, careful, guarded, but present. They sat side by side, not touching, not talking, letting the night settle around them like a long, overdue exhale. I think about that night a lot, Adrian finally said. Elias closed his eyes painfully. Don't. I'm not trying to reopen old wounds. I just need to say the things I never said. Elias wrapped his arms around his knees, bracing himself. Then say them. Adrian inhaled, sharp and shaky. I loved you. I was in love with you. I think part of me always was, even before I knew what that meant. Elias's breath faltered. He wasn't expecting honesty. Not like this. Not raw and unarmored, Adrian continued, voice trembling, and that scared me more than anything. Not because of you, because of me, because I didn't know how to be the person you needed. Elias stared at the sand between his fingers. You didn't need to be perfect. You just needed to stay. Adrian's voice broke. I know. Elias blinked hard, focusing on the dark horizon. Do you know what that night did to me? 1 minute you were mine. The next, you were gone. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. Adrian lowered his head. I hated myself for that. Still do. Elias whispered. Then why did you leave? Adrian swallowed, jaw tight. My father found our messages. Elias's lungs froze. He confronted me. Said I'd throw my entire future away for a phase. Said I'd ruin my family, embarrass everyone, that I'd regret choosing you. Adrian's voice shook with old fear. And I believed him. I let him convince me that loving you was wrong. Elias stared, stunned. He had expected many reasons. But not that. Not something that heavy, that cruel. Adrian, Elias said softly, I was young, scared, and I made the wrong choice. The worst one. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I lost you because I didn't have the courage to fight for us. Elias felt his chest crack open, pain and sympathy and longing tangled together. I would have fought with you, he whispered. Not if it ruined your life, Adrian said. I was trying to protect you. And myself. But mostly you. Elias shook his head, eyes burning. You didn't protect me, Adrian. You broke me. The words hit hard, but Adrian didn't look away. I know, he murmured. And I'm here now, trying to make it right. Even if all you want from me is the truth. The wind quieted. The ocean stilled. Everything felt suspended, fragile, uncertain. Elias whispered, I don't know if I can trust you again. Adrian nodded, accepting the wound as deserved. I don't expect you to. Not yet. And if I never do? Adrian looked at him with a softness that hurt. Then I'll still be here, hoping. Not pushing. Not trying to force anything. Just hoping. Elias swallowed hard. His heart ached in a way that felt too real, too familiar. You're making it very difficult to stay angry, Elias said. Adrian's lips curved in a sad, small smile. You never were good at staying mad at me. Doesn't mean I don't want to. Adrian nodded, a quiet laugh escaping. It's okay. You can be angry. You can take your time. Just don't shut me out again. Elias turned his face toward Adrian. In the moonlight, Adrian looked older than the boy he once loved, tired, flawed, but genuine. So heartbreakingly genuine. For the first time, Elias's voice softened. I'm not shutting you out. Adrian's breath hitched, hope flickering to life. Then, Adrian said gently, maybe this is the start of something we lost, not something we have to fear. Elias didn't answer. He didn't know if he could. But he didn't move away, either. And sometimes, that was enough. Chapter 5, A Sudden Setback. The walk back from the beach was quiet. Not uncomfortable, just delicate. Like both of them were afraid to breathe too loudly and break whatever fragile progress they'd made. Elias kept his hands in his pockets. Adrian kept a careful distance, matching Elias's pace without crowding him. When they reached the small path leading toward town, Adrian stopped. I should get home, he said softly. Let you rest. Elias nodded, though part of him didn't want the moment to end. Good night. Adrian hesitated. Good night, Elias. Their eyes met. Just for a second, just enough to strike a spark neither of them were ready for. Then Adrian turned and walked away. Elias woke the next morning with a strange, heavy ache in his chest. Not pain, not fear, something quieter, messier, more complicated. Hope. It scared him more than anything. He stretched, rubbed the sleep from his eyes, and headed to the kitchen where his aunt was already having tea. You look rested, she said with a knowing smile. Elias narrowed his eyes. Please don't, she laughed. I didn't even say anything. You were about to. Fine, she said, holding up her hands. No questions. Yet, Elias warmed himself a cup of tea and forced his thoughts away from last night, from Adrian's confession, from the way his voice had cracked, from the way the moonlight had softened all the edges Elias still wasn't ready to touch. He needed a distraction, a safe one, so when his aunt mentioned that the local art supply shop needed help organizing a shipment, he volunteered. Anything to keep busy. The setback arrived just before noon. Elias was stacking sketchpads when the door chime rang. He turned and froze. A man stepped inside, tall, effortlessly confident, sun-tanned from travel, camera strapped around his shoulder. He smiled at the shop owner, then glanced at Elias. "Oh," he said, "you must be Elias." Elias blinked. "Do we know each other?" "Not yet." The man extended a hand. "I'm Caleb, Adrian's boyfriend." Elias felt the air punch out of his lungs. The world tilted, quietly, violently. Boyfriend. Adrian had never mentioned. He didn't. There was no. Caleb's smile didn't falter. "We've been together a while. He told me all about his hometown, and I thought I'd surprise him." "He's terrible at answering his phone." Elias stood completely still, heart slamming against his ribs. He fought to keep his voice steady. "You're here to see Adrian?" "Yeah, I figured he'd be working the cliffs or the South Shore today." "Do you know where he usually shoots in the mornings?" Elias couldn't speak. His fingers trembled around a stack of sketchpads. He swallowed, forcing words. "I don't know." Caleb nodded politely. "No worries. I'll look around." "Thanks, Elias." He waved once, then left the store. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Elias pressed a hand against the counter to steady himself. Cold, hollow, stupid. He felt stupid. Last night, the confessions, the closeness, all of it spiraled inside his chest like smoke smothering a flame. Had Adrian lied? Was Caleb even real to him? Was Adrian still with him? Was Elias just convenient? He didn't know. He hated that he didn't know. He grabbed his bag, mumbling an apology to the shop owner, and stepped outside, breathing hard. The ocean wind struck him like a slap. He needed answers. Now. He found Adrian near the cliffs, camera in hand. Adrian lit up when he saw him. "Elias, hey." Elias didn't smile. Adrian's expression fell immediately. "What's wrong?" Elias's voice was sharp, too bright, trembling from anger and hurt he couldn't hide. "Why didn't you tell me you had a boyfriend?" Adrian froze. The wind whipped between them. Seconds stretched into something unbearable. "Elias," Adrian whispered, "it's not what you think." Elias laughed, bitter, broken. "No? Because someone named Caleb just introduced himself. And he seemed very confident about what the two of you are." Adrian's jaw clenched. "He's not my boyfriend. He thinks he is. Because I didn't correct him." Adrian stepped forward, desperation rising in his voice. "We went on a few trips together. He wanted more. I didn't. I ended it weeks ago. He just didn't accept it." Elias shook his head, backing away. "You should have told me. I was going to." "When? After what?" Elias cut him off, voice cracking. "After getting close again? After making me feel like the past meant something?" Adrian reached out, but Elias stepped farther back. "I didn't lie to you," Adrian said firmly. "But I didn't want to overwhelm you with more complications. I thought we were just starting to be honest again. I didn't want to ruin that." "You already did." The words stung, deep, immediate. Adrian flinched. "Elias, please." But Elias turned away, not running, not this time. Just walking away because he didn't know how to breathe near Adrian without hurting. And behind him, Adrian whispered into the wind. "I should have told you. I'm sorry. Please don't go." Elias didn't look back. Not yet. Chapter 6. Adrian's Collapse. Adrian watched Elias walk away until the figure in the distance blurred into the light and the wind and the ache in his chest. He didn't move, couldn't. The cliffs stretched endlessly before him, waves crashing with a rhythm too steady for the storm inside him. He hadn't felt this kind of panic in years, tight in his lungs, sharp in his ribs, like the world was shrinking around him. "Not again," he whispered to himself. He pressed his palms against his eyes. Please not again. But the memories came anyway. The night he left, the shouting, the fear, the silence afterward. He had promised himself he'd never let fear freeze him like that ever again. Yet here he was, frozen. "Elias thinks I lied. Elias thinks I would hurt him again. Elias thinks I haven't changed." Adrian sank to the ground, his back pressed against a cold rock. He dragged a hand through his hair, breathing unevenly. He should have told Elias about Caleb. He knew that. He knew at the moment Caleb's name left Elias's lips. He had been stupid, cowardly in a smaller, quieter way. Not for the same reasons as years ago. But still cowardly. He pulled his knees to his chest and lowered his head, trying to center his breathing. In, out, count, steady. But nothing steadied. Because Elias had looked at him like he had shattered him all over again. And that was unbearable. Footsteps echoed behind him, and for a heartbeat, hope flared in his chest. Elias. Maybe Elias had come back. But it wasn't him. It was Mira. Adrian's sister crouched beside him without a word. Her eyes softened instantly. Oh, Adrian? He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes. I messed everything up. What happened? He told her. Everything. Caleb showing up. Elias finding out. Elias leaving. The look on his face. Mira sighed and sat down fully beside him. Adrian, when were you planning to tell him about Caleb? I don't know. His voice cracked. Elias and I were finally talking again. It felt fragile. I didn't want anything to break it. Pretending you're complication-free was what broke it, Mira said gently. Adrian let out a harsh breath. I know. God, Mira, I know. She nudged him with her shoulder. Then go fix it. I tried, he whispered. He wouldn't listen. Of course he wouldn't. Mira raised a brow. Would you? After what he's been through? Adrian's throat tightened. No, then try again. And again. And again. You hurt him once in the worst way. She held his gaze. If you want him back, you don't get to give up after the first sign of trouble. Adrian dropped his head into his hands. I'm scared. I know. She placed a hand on his shoulder. But you're not 17 anymore. And neither is he. He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because every part of him felt cracked open. Mira pulled him into a hug, tight, grounding, familiar. He didn't resist. You love him, she murmured. Adrian trembled. I never stopped. Then go to him. Tell him the truth properly. Tell him everything. Adrian swallowed, nodding slowly, determination fighting through the panic. I will, he whispered. Just not like this. Mira frowned. Like what? Adrian stood, unsteady, but standing. I need to breathe first. Adrian, I'm not giving up, he said, voice steadier than before. I'm just trying not to fall apart in front of him. He picked up his camera bag, slinging it over his shoulder with hands that were still shaking. I'll talk to him tonight. Mira studied him, worry etched in her eyes. Promise? Adrian nodded once. Promise. But that night, Elias didn't answer the door. Adrian knocked twice, gentle, hopeful. Lights were on. He could hear movement inside. Elias? He tried softly. It's me. Please, can we talk? Footsteps stopped. Silence. Adrian's throat tightened. He rested his forehead against the door. Please, he whispered. Just a few minutes. Just, don't shut me out. Still nothing. He exhaled, a shaky, broken exhale, and stepped back. I'll try again tomorrow, he said quietly to the door. I'm not going anywhere. He waited a few seconds longer. Just in case. But Elias didn't open the door. When Adrian walked away, Elias was just on the other side, back pressed against the wood, eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. Both of them hurting, both of them wanting the same thing, but neither knowing how to reach the other without breaking again. Chapter 7, Confession and Clash. Elias hadn't slept. He'd spent the whole night replaying Adrian's knock at the door, his voice, quiet, careful, almost trembling. He had wanted to open it. God, he wanted to. But wanting and trusting weren't the same thing. When morning light spilled into the kitchen, Elias still felt the same ache in his chest, sharp, exhausted, messy. He grabbed his satchel and stepped outside, hoping fresh air would calm the storm inside him. He didn't expect to see Adrian waiting on the wooden bench just a few meters away. Adrian shot to his feet the moment their eyes met. He looked tired, worn, haunted. Eli, Adrian. Elias's voice was low, controlled. Don't. Not right now. Adrian swallowed and stepped closer anyway. We need to talk. We really don't. We do, Adrian insisted, breath unsteady. Because I can't breathe knowing you think I lied to you. Elias's jaw clenched. You did lie. By omission or intention, it doesn't matter. You kept something from me. Again, that's not fair. It's exactly fair. Elias's voice cracked, but he didn't look away. You walked out of my life without a word. You left me to deal with everything alone. And now you show up years later acting like you can decide when I'm ready to hear the truth? Adrian flinched like he'd been hit. Elias looked away, exhaling shakily. I'm tired, Adrian. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the only one who ends up bleeding every time you walk back into my life. Adrian stepped closer, desperation flickering through him. I didn't know Caleb would show up. I didn't plan any of this. That's not the point. Elias finally turned his gaze back to him, hurt, vulnerable, fierce. Point is you hid something from me. You made me feel stupid for thinking we were finally moving forward. Adrian's voice shook. I didn't tell you because I was scared. Of what? Of losing you again. Elias froze. The words hit him like a blow. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before forcing himself to meet Elias's eyes again. I should have told you. I know I should have. He was part of a very dark time in my life. And I didn't know how to explain it without you thinking I'm still the same coward who ran away. Elias's breath caught. Adrian took another step toward him, slow, cautious. I left years ago because I was drowning, Elias. Not because I didn't love you. Elias's heart stuttered painfully. Adrian swallowed hard. I never stopped loving you. His voice broke, raw. Not for one day. Silence. The wind moved gently through the trees, but neither of them moved. Elias stared at him, truly stared, and years of buried emotion cracked open. You don't get to say that, he whispered. Adrian blinked. What? You don't get to say you never stopped loving me after you disappeared. Elias's voice trembled. Love doesn't vanish people without warning. Love doesn't make you run. Love doesn't leave me searching for you in every face for years. Adrian closed his eyes briefly, pain etched across his features. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry. I don't need apologies, Elias snapped, stepping back. I need honesty. I need stability. I need to know you won't walk away again when things get difficult. Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. I won't. You did. Adrian's shoulders sagged, and I regret it every single day. But I'm here now. I'm trying. Let me try, Elias. Please. Elias hesitated. The anger was real. The hurt was real. But the longing, the ache beneath everything, it was real too. Why didn't you tell me about Caleb? Elias asked quietly. Not the excuses. The truth. Adrian looked terrified, but he answered, because he reminded me of who I used to be, Adrian said slowly. And I wanted to be someone better for you when we found each other again. Elias's breath hitched. Adrian stepped closer, leaving barely a meter between them. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd see how much of me is still cracked. Elias swallowed. You think I didn't know you were cracked? Adrian, I loved you at your worst. Adrian's expression crumpled, and I wanted you to love me at my best. They stood in the quiet aftermath of those words, breathing unevenly, hearts exposed more than either had planned. Finally, Elias's voice softened. You hurt me. Adrian nodded, tears gathering. I know, and I don't trust you yet. Adrian nodded again, throat tight. I know, but, Elias exhaled slowly, stepping forward, closing the last bit of distance. I don't want you to walk away. Adrian's breath stopped. Elias's fingers brushed Adrian's, hesitant, trembling. I'm not ready, Elias whispered, but I'm not done. Adrian let out a broken, relieved laugh as he closed his hand gently around Elias's. I'll wait, he said. As long as you need. Their foreheads nearly touched, not quite, but close enough for hope to spark, fierce, dangerous, fragile. Chapter 8, Rain, Shelter, and Truth. The first raindrop struck Elias's cheek just as he stepped off the porch. Cold, sharp, a warning, then another, and another. Within moments, the sky broke open. Elias ran across the yard, soaking through in seconds. Lightning split the horizon, white and violent. The storm rolled in fast, too fast. And somewhere out there, Adrian was still walking. Idiot, Elias muttered, heart thundering. Stupid, stubborn, impossible idiot. He saw a figure through the sheets of rain, barely visible, swaying like a shadow losing balance. Adrian. Elias sprinted, slipping through wet grass, mud hitting his legs as he caught Adrian by the arm. Adrian turned, drenched and shivering uncontrollably. You left, mad, Adrian said through chattering teeth. I didn't want to chase you. You don't have to chase me, but you can't wander off in a storm. Elias snapped, his voice breaking with panic. Thunder cracked overhead. Adrian flinched and nearly collapsed. Elias slid an arm around him. Come on, there's an old boat shed, just a little farther. Adrian leaned into him, barely able to walk. The old shed groaned under the storm, but it was shelter. Barely. The moment the door shut behind them, Elias dragged Adrian toward a corner protected from the wind. Sit down, Elias ordered. Adrian obeyed, trembling violently. Water streamed down his hair, his jaw, dripping from his lashes. Elias cursed under his breath. His hands shook as he pulled off his own soaked jacket and wrapped it around Adrian's shoulders. You're freezing. Adrian managed a faint smile. You noticed. Don't joke right now. I'm not, Adrian whispered. I'm just glad you came. Elias swallowed hard, pressing a hand to Adrian's cheek. Cold. Too cold. You scared me, he said, voice barely audible. Adrian's eyes softened. You walked away, and you followed me into a storm. Adrian's laugh was weak, but real. I didn't want you to disappear again. Elias's breath caught. Lightning lit up the shed. Adrian shivered harder. Take off your shirt, Elias said. Adrian blinked. What? You're soaked. You'll get hypothermia. Elias hesitated, ears burning. Just trust me. Adrian nodded slowly, fingers barely steady enough to tug the wet fabric over his head. Elias sucked in a breath. Not because of the bare skin, though his chest tightened at the sight, but because Adrian was shaking so hard it looked painful. Elias quickly peeled off his own shirt and wrapped it around Adrian's shoulders. Adrian looked at him, eyes wide, vulnerable, somehow both apologizing and yearning all at once. Elias, I didn't mean to make today worse. You didn't, Elias whispered. You make everything complicated. I know. Adrian laughed softly. I'm good at ruining things. Elias snapped his head up. Don't say that, you said it too. I was angry. And you're not now? Lightning flashed again. Rain hammered the roof like it was trying to get inside. Elias exhaled shakily. No, I'm not angry. I'm just scared. Adrian frowned. Of me? No. Elias brushed wet hair from Adrian's forehead. Of losing you. Of wanting you too much. Of this? Adrian's voice trembled, not from cold this time. Elias leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes. You walk toward me like you're not afraid, Elias murmured. But I am. Adrian moved closer, their knees touching. Then let me be afraid with you. Elias's breath hitched. Rain roared, thunder shook the floorboards, and for the first time, neither of them spoke. Adrian reached out slowly, as if giving Elias every chance to pull away. His hand hovered near Elias's. Elias didn't move, their fingers brushed, soft, barely there, but enough to break something open inside both of them. Adrian whispered, I meant what I said. About what? Elias whispered back, you're not a storm I want to survive. You're a storm I want to walk into. Elias's heart slammed against his ribs. Adrian? Adrian leaned forward, careful, waiting, trembling. And Elias didn't stop him. Their foreheads touched, breath mixing in the cold air. Rain poured, wind howled, the whole world felt like it was falling apart. But inside the shed, something was finally falling together. Chapter 9, Morning after the storm. The storm had raged deep into the night. But now, in the early morning quiet, only the steady drip of water from the shed roof remained, soft, rhythmic, almost peaceful. Elias blinked, awake slowly. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he felt warmth, unexpected, steady, breathing warmth, pressed against his side. Adrian. Elias froze. Adrian was leaning against him, his head resting lightly on Elias's shoulder, breath warm against his skin. At some point in the night, they had shifted closer, close enough that Elias could feel the rise and fall of Adrian's chest, the slow, sleepy rhythm of someone who finally felt safe. Elias stared at the ceiling, willing his heart to calm. God, what happened last night? Not a kiss, not quite, but something had happened, something real. Adrian stirred, a soft noise escaping him as he shifted. His fingers brushed Elias's forearm lightly, unconsciously. Elias swallowed hard. This was too much, too close, too easy to want. Adrian's eyes opened slowly, sleepy, unfocused at first, then sharpening when he realized how close they were. Oh, Adrian whispered. Oh, Elias echoed. They stayed frozen like that, neither moving, neither breathing, as if one small shift might break the fragile peace of the morning. Finally, Adrian pulled back, sitting up with a shy, startled look. Sorry, he murmured. I didn't mean to sleep on you. It's fine, Elias said too quickly. You were freezing. I didn't want you to get sick. Adrian's expression softened. You stayed awake for a long time, didn't you? Elias didn't answer, which was answer enough. Adrian exhaled, a small, guilty smile tugging at his lips. You still care. Don't start, Elias muttered, rubbing his eyes. You make everything complicated, only because you keep pretending you don't feel anything. I don't. Elias stopped himself. The lie tasted too bitter. Adrian looked at him gently, almost painfully gently. Elias, last night wasn't nothing. And there it was, the truth between them, raw and unavoidable. Elias looked away. You were freezing, Adrian. You could barely stand. Of course I helped. That's not what I mean. Silence stretched, warmed only by the soft morning light filtering through the cracks in the boards. Adrian stood slowly, testing his legs. I should check the path back. See if the storm washed anything out. He reached for the shed door, but paused, hand on the handle. Elias? Yeah? Adrian didn't turn around. His voice was low, careful. Last night, when you put your head against mine, did that mean nothing to you? Elias's chest tightened. The memory hit instantly. Rain all around them, their foreheads touching, the warmth of Adrian's breath trembling with emotion. Neither of them dared speak aloud. It wasn't nothing, Elias admitted quietly. But it wasn't something we can just jump into again. Adrian nodded slowly, still not turning. I know. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Adrian finally looked back, eyes tired but hopeful. A chance. Just one. To show you I'm not the same person who hurt you. Elias felt something collapse inside him, anger, fear, longing tangled together and falling apart. Adrian, I don't need a yes, Adrian said softly. I just need to know you didn't shut the door on us completely. Elias closed his eyes. The storm was over, but inside him, something else was just beginning. I didn't shut the door, he whispered. But I don't know how to open it again. A small, fragile smile touched Adrian's lips. Then maybe, he said, we open it slowly. Elias looked at him, sunlight catching in Adrian's damp hair, turning him golden for just a moment. Something inside Elias, something fragile, something he had tried to bury, shifted. Slowly, Elias repeated, and for the first time in years, the word didn't feel impossible. Chapter 10. Someone unexpected arrives. By late morning, the storm clouds had thinned into pale streaks across the sky. The air smelled of wet earth and salt, and the world felt strangely quiet, like everything was holding its breath. Elias and Adrian walked the muddy path back toward the house in an uneasy silence. Not cold, not angry, just careful. Every glance carried something unspoken. Every step felt like uncertain ground. They were almost at the porch when Elias froze. A car was parked outside. Not just any car. A silver sedan, clean, polished, obviously not local. The kind of car that didn't belong in a small coastal town. Adrian blinked. Do you recognize it? Elias's stomach dropped. He knew that car, too well. Before he could answer, the front door swung open. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, elegant even in travel-wrinkled clothes, her dark hair pinned neatly back. Her eyes scanned the yard with sharp precision, and landed directly on Elias. Her expression cracked. Relief. Anger, worry, all at once. Elias. Her voice trembled. Elias went rigid. Mom? Adrian's eyes widened. Elias's mother hurried down the steps, shoes sinking into the wet ground. She reached him in seconds, cupping his face in both hands, checking him over like he might disappear if she blinked. Oh, thank God. I've been calling for days. Her breath shook. Why didn't you answer? What happened? I thought. Mom, I'm fine, Elias said quietly. You're soaking wet. There was a storm, and you were out in it? Elias, honestly. Her voice faded as she finally noticed the figure standing a few steps behind him. Adrian. Her expression hardened almost instantly. Adrian straightened, instinctively tense. He looked like he wanted to step back but forced himself not to. Elias's mother's voice lost its warmth, turning cool and assessing. You must be Adrian. Adrian swallowed. Yes, ma'am. She crossed her arms. I see. Elias felt a headache forming. Mom, don't. I'm not doing anything, she said lightly, too lightly. I'm simply surprised. Elias never mentioned that you'd reappeared. That's because he hasn't, Elias muttered. He just showed up. Adrian flinched at the choice of words, even though Elias didn't mean them to hurt. Mrs. Hale narrowed her eyes at the tension between them. Elias, she said, can we talk? Privately. No, Elias said immediately. Adrian blinked in surprise. His mother's brows rose. No? Number? If you're going to talk about him, you can say it in front of him. Adrian's breath hitched, barely audible, but Elias heard it. Mrs. Hale looked between them slowly, and the shift in her expression was unmistakable. Recognition. Realization. Concern. Oh, she said softly. I see. Elias felt heat rush to his face. It's not, we're not, that's not what's happening. Adrian looked at the ground. His mother's voice was gentle, but firm. Sweetheart, are you sure he's someone you should let back into your life? Elias's chest tightened. Adrian's shoulders tensed, his jaw clenching. Mom, Elias warned. I'm only asking, she continued calmly, because last time he was here, he left you completely shattered. I remember the phone calls. I remember how long it took you to breathe normally again. Adrian closed his eyes as if the words hit him physically. Elias stepped forward, anger rising. Mom, stop. Why? She asked quietly. You deserve to be safe. Adrian took a shaky breath. Mrs. Hale, she's right. Both of them looked at him. Adrian's voice was low, raw. I did hurt him. I don't blame you for not wanting me here. That's not the point, Elias started. Adrian held up a hand. No, she deserves to say it. You deserve someone who's not running from his own shadow. Elias's mother watched him carefully, evaluating him the way only a protective parent could. Adrian swallowed hard. I just came to apologize. To fix what I broke. If that's even possible. Elias's mother didn't respond right away. The storm had beaten the whole countryside into a quiet stillness, and every second stretched painfully long. Then she asked softly, do you love my son? Elias nearly choked. Mom. Adrian froze, completely. His mother didn't blink. I'm asking, Elias, because your face looks like someone who hasn't slept properly in weeks. Adrian's voice cracked open. I do, he whispered. Then again, stronger. I do. More than I know how to say. Elias stared at him, breath gone. It was the most honest thing Adrian had ever said aloud. Mrs. Hale exhaled slowly. Well, she said, stepping back. Then we need to talk. She walked toward the house, expecting them to follow. Adrian didn't move. Elias turned to him. Hey, Elias said softly. You okay? Adrian's eyes glistened, not with weakness, but with something breaking open inside him. I didn't expect to say that today. Elias's heart ached. Yeah, I didn't expect to hear it. So, what do we do now? Adrian whispered. Elias looked toward the house. Looked at Adrian. Looked at the storm-drenched world around them. And for once, he didn't feel unsure. We face her, Elias said quietly. Together. Adrian let out a breath, half relief, half fear. But he nodded, and they walked toward the house, side by side. Chapter 11, Tense Breakfast and Unspoken Feelings. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen, too warm, too normal for a morning soaked in tension. Elias sat at the small wooden table, hands wrapped around a mug he wasn't drinking from. Across from him, his mother sliced fruit with unnecessary precision, the knife hitting the cutting board a little too sharply. Adrian sat at the far end of the table, posture straight, hands folded, eyes lowered. His damp hair had started to curl as it dried, giving him a softness completely at odds with the stiffness in his shoulders. No one spoke. The storm outside had ended, but inside the kitchen, the air was heavy with everything they didn't know how to say. Finally, Elias's mother broke the silence. So, she said, placing a plate of toast on the table, how long have you been back in town, Adrian? Adrian cleared his throat. Just a few days, ma'am. She poured herself more coffee. And your sudden arrival has nothing to do with Elias being here? Elias's jaw tightened. Mom, but Adrian nodded, voice low. It has everything to do with him. Mrs. Hale's eyes flicked to her son. Elias looked away, ears burning. I see, she said quietly. At least you're being honest. Another silence settled, broken only by the clink of her spoon against her mug. Adrian finally forced himself to speak again. I didn't come here to cause trouble. Or to make Elias uncomfortable. I didn't expect him to forgive me. I still don't. He glanced at Elias, something soft and painful flickering in his eyes. I just wanted to see him. To make sure he was okay. Elias swallowed hard. I was okay. Adrian breathed in sharply, like the words stung. But you weren't happy. That's not your call to make, Elias said, more defensive than he intended. Mrs. Hale watched them both carefully, her expression unreadable. You two speak, she said slowly, like something is still hanging between you. Elias looked down at his coffee. Adrian looked at him, and Mrs. Hale saw both of them. I'm not blind, she murmured. Or stupid. Adrian stiffened. Elias's cheeks heated. Mrs. Hale folded her hands, tone firm but not unkind. I know my son. I know when he's hurting. I know when someone is the cause of it. And I know when he still cares, even if he's terrified to admit it. Elias whispered, Mom, please. I'm not judging, she said simply. I just want honesty. Because secrets are heavier than storms. Adrian's breath trembled. If honesty is what you want, I'll give it. He turned to Elias, and the room went still. I never stopped thinking about you, he said quietly. Not once. I left because I was scared of what I felt. And I came back because I'm scared of living without it. Elias's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Mrs. Hale's gaze softened, not approving, not disapproving, just understanding. Elias managed to whisper, Adrian, you can't just say things like that at breakfast. Adrian swallowed. I don't know how else to say them. Silence again, thick, fragile. Mrs. Hale stood. Well, she sighed, gathering dishes, if you're going to break my kitchen with tension, at least help me clean up. Adrian jolted up instantly. I can help. She paused, studying him. Good, she said, because if you truly care about my son, you can start by drying the plates. Adrian blinked. Yes, ma'am. Elias almost laughed. Almost. As they cleaned side by side, Adrian drying while Mrs. Hale washed, Elias watched them, heart-twisting. Adrian was trying in ways he never had before. His mother, cautious but open, wasn't pushing him away. And Elias felt something shift inside him. Something tender, something terrifying. When Adrian accidentally brushed Elias's hand while reaching for a plate, Elias didn't pull away. For the first time that morning, Adrian looked up at him, really looked. A question lingered in his eyes. Elias didn't have an answer yet, but he didn't say no. Chapter 12, A Walk to Clear the Air. The sun had climbed just high enough to warm the rain-soaked world. Droplets still clung to every leaf, turning the yard into a field of glitter when the light touched them. Elias needed space, not from Adrian exactly, but from the weight of the morning, from his mother's questions, from the look in Adrian's eyes when he said I never stopped thinking about you. So when his mother suggested she needed rest, Elias took the opportunity. I'm going for a walk, he announced. Adrian immediately stood. I'll come. Elias hesitated, but only for a breath. Okay, and that was how they ended up walking side by side down the narrow cliffside path, the ocean stretching out below them, vast and shimmering. The air between them was not hostile, not cold, just thick, full, heavy with everything unsaid. They walked in silence for several minutes. Seagulls circled overhead, waves crashed against the rocks. The rhythm of the world was calmer than the rhythm of Elias's pulse. Finally, Adrian spoke, quietly, as if afraid to disturb the peaceful morning. Your mom, she doesn't like me much. She doesn't know you, Elias said. Not really. Adrian let out a soft laugh. She knows enough. They paused near a bent old pine tree overlooking the sea. Elias leaned against it, arms crossed, staring at the horizon. Why did you say all that? He asked finally. To her. To me. Adrian shifted, hands deep in his pockets. Because it was true. Adrian, I meant it, Adrian insisted gently. Every word. Elias looked down at his shoes, mud still clinging to the edges from last night's storm. You always say things like that when you're emotional. When something scares you. When you're desperate. And when I'm calm, Adrian said softly. Elias blinked. What? Adrian stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that Elias felt his warmth. I'm calm now. I'm thinking clearly. And I still mean it. Elias's throat tightened. Adrian continued, voice steady but vulnerable. I didn't come back to start chaos. I came back because the life I had without you didn't feel like mine. I tried to move on. I tried to forget, but I couldn't. Not really. Elias swallowed hard. That doesn't mean things can just go back to how they were. I know, and it doesn't mean I'm not still angry. I know, and it doesn't erase the way you left. I know, Adrian said quietly. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Elias closed his eyes. The breeze moved gently through his hair. The world smelled of salt and pine and something familiar. Something like home. Adrian, he whispered, you can't promise that. I can, Adrian said, stepping closer. And I just did. Elias opened his eyes and found Adrian watching him, not with desperation this time, but with patience. With quiet certainty. with the kind of softness that broke down walls without force. Elias turned away, breathing deeply. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice barely more than a whisper. Adrian's reply was almost immediate. "Me too." Elias looked at him, surprised.